Hello there, Year 3's Miss Hutt here, and I'm here today just to walk you through a little bit of your fractions maths activities today. So I've taken just a selection of the activities. I think it's worth explaining what each of these activities are all about. Now, hopefully you've watched the video which explains equivalent fractions and reminds you about how to find them, but I'm just going to be here just to demonstrate to you some of these activities. So I've selected activity 1 on your kind of activities to do. And it says here, to shade the bar models to represent the fractions. Shade 1/2 of the bar model. Now this is slightly different this week because you have a number line underneath as well. So here we've got a 0 up to 1, and then obviously halfway through it's represented as half because it's split into 2 equal parts and you need to shade one of them. So that's nice and easy. Just give it a quick squiggle. But the reason why that this has been shown is very carefully shown because we now need to look at the next activity, which says shade in 2/4 of the bar model. But if you notice, we've got the same number line under here. So there's going to be a link between 2/4 and 1/2. So quarters, let's have a look at the denominator. How many parts? 4. How many do we need to shade? 2. The numerator is 2, so I need to shade in 1, 2 of the parts. And if you look carefully, look to where your bar model comes up to. And if you look at the number line, it's still 1/2. Now see if you can start spotting any patterns. 1/2, 2/4. Let's go across to the next one and see if you can spot any more patterns. So this time it says shade 3/6 of the bar model. So denominator, 6 parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Numerator, 3 parts I need to shade. Now have a look at these patterns. What do you notice? Number line is still the same underneath like before. 3/6, 1/2. 2/4, 1/2, 1/2, 1/2. I'm going to write all these fractions out to see if you can spot anything about these numbers. 1/2, 2/4, 3/6. Well, actually, if you look, 3 is half of 6, 2 is half of 4, 1 is half of 2. Write another fraction that's equivalent to 1/2. You can pick any number. But how do we know it's half? Well, the numerator needs to be half of the denominator. So if I chose my denominator to be tenths, what is my numerator going to be? Well, the top tip is you need to make sure the numerator is half of the denominator. So what's half of 10? 5. I'm going to choose another one. I'm going to choose 16ths here. What's half of 16? 8. And actually, if you wanted to prove it as well, that would be super whizzy. So knowing this about our halves, I've chosen activity 4 now because we start off looking at halves up here and then we move on to something slightly different. So here it says find the missing numbers. Now there's a lot of information on this first activity here. I'm just going to cover it up because we have a number line. Now before I do anything, I'm just going to check like I did last week. I'm going to check the landmarks on my number line. I'm just counting them as I'm talking. And there are 14 landmarks. So the top information is actually what the landmarks represent. 14ths, it's split into 4 equal parts. And if we look, 1, 2, 14ths. 1, 2, 3, 4 14ths. We've got some missing numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 14ths. Let's carry on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 14ths. 11, 12 14ths. So each of these landmarks represents 1/14. However, we've also got something underneath. Now, if our focus is equivalent fractions, there's going to be some patterns going on. Let's look at the first one. That information has been given to you for a reason. It says 2/14ths is the same as 1/7. Now look at the information here. What is the link between 1/7 and 2/14ths? What is the pattern? I'm going to write them out next to each other. 1/7, 2/14ths. Now, yesterday I mentioned about making the link between the fractions. Have a look at the 7 and the 14. how do they link? Well, you need to multiply 7 by 2 to get to 14. So what you do to the bottom, you need to do to the top to make it equivalent. So you need to multiply that top one by 2. So that's how you get to 14ths. So let's have a look over here. Now, we've got 1/7 is 2/14. We've got 4/14 here. So what am I going to need to do down here to work out what's going on in this little section? We've got 1/7, 3/7, 4/7. Well, if that's 1/7, that's 3/7, that's 4/7. There's a bit of a pattern. Each two of these landmarks is going to be a 7th because you've had to multiply it by 2. So it's going to be 2/7. And then go on to the next one. 3/7, 4/7, 5/7, 6/7, and then 7/7, which is the same as 1 whole. Now I'm just going to start you off with the next one because I just need to explain. I'm not going to do all of this one for you because this time we've got some slightly different numbers going on here. We've got fifths along the bottom. We've been given all this information. But have a look up here. We've got fifths and then we've got 15ths. So we need to work out what some of this information is here. Now, when I first looked at this, I thought, well, what can I do that's really quite easy to do? And I know I can do this one because I know by the looks of it it's going up in 15ths. So I'm just going to pop a 15th in here. But the tricky part is working out this numerator. Now, remember what we say, what we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. So I'm just going to write this out over here. So we know we've got 2/5 and we're trying to work out how many 15ths is equivalent to 2/5. So what do you need to multiply 5 by to get to 15? Is your knowledge of your times tables, year 3s? You need to multiply it by 3. So what do you think you need to multiply the top number by? You need to multiply it by 3. So 2 times 3 is, it's a tricky question for you, year 3s. It's 6. So over here it's 6/15. Now let's have a look at the next one. We've got 4/5. I'm going to write it down over here just so I can see the patterns, and you've got to work out how many 15ths is equivalent to 4/5. Well, the same pattern, what you do to the denominator, you need to do to the numerator. So you multiply it by 3. So what have you got to do to the 4? You need to multiply it by 3. So your knowledge of your 4 or your 3 times table, 4 lots of 3 is 12. Now the last one we call an improper fraction because the numerator is actually more than the denominator. But don't worry, just follow that same pattern of what you do to the bottom, you need to do to the top. I'm going to let you work this one out. Let me know what you find. If you do have any questions about equivalent fractions, do get in touch. I'm always here to help. Get your adults to email over to me. But other than that, year 3s, enjoy solving these equivalent fractions and have a lovely sunny day. Bye-bye.